Welcome back to another BRUNCH, your Sunday rendezvous with the hockey coach, your coach FRENCHY, directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. And we have to go all the way to Ottawa to find our co-host. Ready for episode number 23. Marko LARABIE is in the house this morning.
23, sir. Bob Gainey. That's one of my favorite HABS numbers that are retired. 23.
What a great hockey player. Before that was Brand Bellows. So after him, Brand Bellows, number 23. For the Montreal Canadiens. What a great hockey player. Maybe not with Montreal, but the Minnesota North Star, Brand Bellows, one of the great hockey players. But again, another week of Montreal Canadiens, surprisingly with 2W on the 3 game. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about some injuries update, Mr. Marko. It'll be interesting what we have to talk about this. And then some other news around the Montreal Canadiens claim a player this week. So a very active week last week, but this is just the beginning because now we knocked the door. We are honestly 5 days, 6 days before the trade deadline. So we're going to talk a little bit more what do you expect from Ken Hughes. So a lot of subject to talk today for sure, this episode number 23. But before we start, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what happening to you during the week.
It's a good week. It's another blizzard here this morning. So like lots of snow. Luckily, I live in an apartment building, so I don't have to shovel anything, which is nice. But lots of snow, lots of hockey. You're right. Like last night was kind of a whirlwind news from the Canadiens after midnight. Like late night news. So lots to talk about this week, Coach. On a stuck, cette semaine.
Definitely about that. So let's starting with the warm-up of the first segment of this show, episode number 23. Are you ready? Here we go. We are back again. Like I mentioned, episode number 23. Again, Montreal Canadiens play a couple of games this week. 3 games. Start Tuesday again, the New Jersey. And then they play Friday and Saturday back-to-back game. Again, the Philadelphia Flyers. And honestly, yesterday, again, Ottawa Senator, we're going to talk about what happening. Surprisingly, all 3 games are it's like a casino jackpot, right? 5-2, 5-2, 5-2. But New Jersey 5-2, that's maybe the biggest surprise. Philadelphia Flyers, Flyers not looking good if you watch this game. And then yesterday 5-2, but Ellen Keefe, she's really one love to stay, be around the Hockey National show. She said during the game 3 times, and I was more. It was a lot of whistle last night. Today, not really great on the structure organization. There was really a lot of icing off ice. Not maybe it was a back-to-back, but it was not looking good. So we're going to talk about the 3 games, Mr. Marko. So I would let you starting with a game Tuesday night against the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, you're right. 5-2 all across the board. Big miss by me last week. I didn't think that this week was going to turn out this way at all. Like these are all teams that usually Montreal doesn't match up really well against. So New Jersey for sure was the biggest surprise. Coach, this is what I've been thinking, and I always struggle with this. So, like we talked about for a while, so at the beginning of the year, they were piling up points and not really playing the right way. Right before the All-Star break, though, you could see like when St. Louis got them to start focusing on the defensive zone, and you could see the team players really starting to come along really well, right? So since the All-Star break, and even a little bit before, they've been playing so well, right? So here's a question: Is Montreal this good, or is it because they're eliminated and they have no pressure at all and they're playing completely loose? It's so hard to evaluate a team that has all these young players up and have nothing to lose, right? So I'm sure we can talk about it a bit more, but see, I look at that New Jersey game and like it's like they were playing so free, right? And like I'm so impressed with the way St. Louis has them playing. Like we've talked about many times, like really starting to dedicate themselves to the brand, right? And not, it doesn't matter who's in the lineup. It's just a different piece that comes in and fills the role of the person that's gone. And so just really impressive week. even last night in Ottawa, the first two periods, like what's not to like about that game? I think they held Ottawa to 7 shots and not very much. Like you said, it was kind of a ping pong in the neutral zone a little bit during that game, but not much to dislike. Like if they would have converted on a couple of those odd man rushes that they had, it would have been a very different game. Like that Suzuki breakaway goal was he's like the king of embarrassing goalies on breakaways. He was pretty close at potting that second one too. It was almost the same move, the side to side move. But you convert one of those chances against Ottawa, and then they're holding their sticks a bit tighter, right? So that 5-2 score last night, not really representative of I think the whole game. Barron had a bit of a tougher game last night, I found. But overall, still really good story, but a bit of a tougher game. And like Sandy, we said, right, it's par for the course. Like we have a lot of young guys. And like we talked about, I love the analogy when Sandy Louis says we were there, but we just didn't finish. And that's on both sides of the ice, right? On the offensive side, they didn't finish their chances. And then same thing on the defensive coverage. For the most part, they were there, but just didn't finish. Other than that one goal where did you notice Hoffman on that goal? The goal where he skated behind the net and he just let it go right to the net. So other than that was really confusing coverage, but for the most part, they were right there. So really good week. But what do you think, Coach? Like, do you think the results are a little bit misleading because of where they are and the fact that they have no pressure?
Well, first of all, back to Mike Hoffman, right? He talked about the misassessment, right? So you should know better, a little bit better. So he didn't, when he said finish the job, he don't want to. Martin Louis is really pussy, right? He doesn't want to put anybody out of, out of the box. He didn't want to mention it was Hoffman, but the play you talk about, Hoffman just decided to go around the net and cannot come back faster. Miscommunication, but if you stay in front of the net, because the number 21 will be their example, you have to stay there. So it's misassessment, part of the defense, part of the zone coverage, everything like that. Now, back on your question, said what changed a lot? And I think he sold the concept or the structure to everybody. And you can see the formation of his brand, his culture is maybe at 5 phase. He's maybe now phase number 2. At the beginning, it was a bit more the free for all. Now they play all more together. The game against New Jersey, Vanecek gave he was not solid between the pipe. On the flip side, if you look the defensive zone coverage, he's just talking about this. They was excellent. The details of the game. I will give you an example. Josh Anderson intercepted the puck on PK. But just the fact he did that, but he maybe a shot one-timer on the back door. Maybe that's the goal. But that's what they really pay attention, the details of the game. A block shot, I don't know, it was New Jersey. I think it was 28 block shot that night over there. So you can see that I always said, it was funny because when I was coaching, I always said, we're going to build the house first. And then we're going to build the house. And then after that, we can go on the backyards. So for me, it was my house. It was my defensive zone. The backyard was the offensive zone. You can do the reverse. You have to go from first of the backyard. Since you do that, what happening for the last 11 game, 10 game, is the defensemen of Montreal score goal. They join the rush. Yeah. Because they had more freedom. They turn around, transition is moving, and they go far all the way with the points. So for me, that's what I would be my best answer. I think the players sold the program now or the concept, and they're doing better as a group, 5 unit together. And I think that's a really important point because when you watch my video this week about Martin St. Louis, that's what he talked about. Whatever who's coming in or coming out, he was reflecting on the Boston Bruins. It's the same way they play. It's no matter it's Bergeron or Marchand or AJ Greer or Nick Foligno. They play a concept, all 5 units together. And that's one reason why happening. Again, the Flyers, honestly, the Flyer was not there at all. It could be more worse than 5-2 at the end of the day if they want to do that. And again, yesterday, Martin Louis said 2-2 after 40 minutes. It reminded me 10 days ago, again, the Carolina Hurricane. 2-2 after 20 minutes. Whatsoever they maybe not deserve to be there. I think Montreal had shot completely Ottawa yesterday. Ottawa have a really bad second period, and Montreal took advantage of that, the lack of the defensive coverage, like Shabbat example for the first goal of the Mike Madison, and then it was 2-2. But again, 2 goal, quick goal from the opponent team, just killed the Montreal Canadiens. After they have no leg for the Montreal to come back in the game. It was 4-2, and that was the same thing with Carolina. Can you remember 3 goals and the last of 3 minutes, and that was the game over in Carolina. So it's also about Mike Martin saying we finished the job. I have to be sure to be alert, but Samuel Montembeault was not the Montembeault we know most of the game this year. He was not very good yesterday.
There's some nice shots. Like those are some nice shots, but you got to have at least one of those. But I understand everything you're saying, Coach. And listen, like I want to give credit to Saint Louis, and you want to give credit to the team that is. So I'm not denying. We've been talking about it. Like I've been talking about it the whole time, right? Like the team, you can see it. You can absolutely see it. But to me, it's always hard to evaluate the team and the players, especially like player performance, when there's nothing on the line, right? Like at this time of the season, you're going to see Montreal's going to play teams where you could argue like I was watching it on Sportsnet the game yesterday, and they just kept talking about how important this game was for Ottawa because they're still in the race for the playoffs. They're only 2 points ahead of Montreal, but then they're focused on Ottawa being in the race for the playoffs. But technically, I guess because they have a couple games in hand, I guess that's true. But you're going to see, like, as Montreal's playing teams that have something to lose, they're going to play completely, relaxed and focused and everything else. So I guess that's the hard thing to analyze here is like we can all see there's huge positive strides happening with the team, but you have to just in the back of your mind understand that there's also nothing to lose, and there's a little less pressure on the players. So will they be
But
able
the
to
effort
repeat
is there,
that in
Marco. They
October?
work hard. They consist. So I understand your point of view, right? The pressure is maybe not exactly, but if you think about that, Jesse Allen right now play for his life. RHP is battle for the spot in NHL. Does it make sense? Like some players right now battle for have something
Yeah,
at the end of the year. So I'm just saying your point of view because if we lose, we lose. That's okay. But I think by the way they play, compare 1 month ago where it was really
yeah,
the
for sure.
December, right? The beginning of January, they struggle a lot. I think that's a good adjustment for Stéphane Robidas and Martin Saint-Louis as a coach for all together as a team.
It's very impressive how much I think Montreal, since I think in February they lead the NHL for goals by defensemen, as a percentage of total goals.
Yeah,
It's,
you're absolutely right.
they're
They
just
dominate 11, and the closest team I think was 7.
yeah. And like to me, the one that stands out the most is Harris. Like he's he's forechecking. He's out there. He's really aggressive pinching. Matheson is like his speed is just unreal. Like how he can cut right through the opponents in the neutral zone. Like he's like a breakout machine this week. So really, really impressive what the D-core is doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely right. So after the week, now Montreal have a week of 2-1-0, 25, 30, and 4, 163 goals for, 214 goals again, 8 again in the Atlantic season, still at 26, but the Flyers are now, Montreal just knocked
Yeah,
the door on front of the Flyers, but behind them, they are Vancouver, San Jose, Arizona, they are behind Montreal, Canadiens. It will be interesting what happening the next couple of games. Montreal will be on the West Coast, going to talk about the next trip with all the players
yeah.
going with them or not going with them.
Don't forget the Blues are not far ahead of Montreal either, right? So you've got Philadelphia, but you've also got the Blues who they might clean out their team a little bit more here heading towards the deadline. So what a nightmare that would be if we finish ahead of Philadelphia and the Blues. I don't think we finish any higher than that, but
That's 24.
I'm keeping an eye on the Blues. Yeah, yeah. It's not impossible that we go up as far as 24.
Yeah, absolutely right about that. But on the flip side, for Montreal Canadiens, the best weekend it was because the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers last Friday night game, they won a Friday night. But what happening the same night, the Detroit and the Buffalo Sabres won the game on the weekend.
Unreal.
And Islanders
Yeah,
split, Pittsburgh won, and Washington won. So Florida are now 20, and they have pressure in front of them. They have pressure behind them, of course, because Nashville is with them. So, not looking good for the Panthers. So, possibly Montreal have to pick two
Top
chances for
50.
the lottery at the end of the
Yeah.
year. So, who stood out
Yeah.
during the week? We talked about fun players already, but what kind of player you would like to talk about that stood out this week?
I think there's the, the most obvious one. I think there's two. Can I cheat? And so I'll say for me, Matheson definitely stood out this week, and a good resurgence from Suzuki. So it's almost like a tie for me between Suzuki and Matheson. But also honorable mention because he doesn't get that much love. I honestly think that Pizzetta is a bit underrated as a hockey player. Honestly, you know, I know in the past you're like, coach, you were questioning whether Pizzetta could really have a role with the team. Like I think he's a prototypical perfect guy for the fourth line. Like, at the beginning of the season he wasn't as energetic and wasn't, finishing hits as much. He was in and out of the lineup though too, right? But I think the key with him is when you play him with players that play a north style like he does, that's when he's effective, right? Like you're playing him with Dadanoff on the fourth line, like it just doesn't compute, right? It just doesn't mesh. But I'm just thinking that that he had a really nice assist earlier this week. Where he was behind the net, won a puck battle, pass in front of the net. Just really smart little plays. Like I think he's an underrated hockey player, and I just let his fight last night was the funniest thing because he hit that guy, and then I think it was Watson was like halfway across the ice from him, and he almost had to call a taxi to kind of find Watson to go for the fight. So just a really gutsy thing because he's not a heavyweight. Like Pizzetta's not a heavyweight. He's a pretty medium sized guy. So really brave, and I think just a really valuable guy. And you can tell how much the other guys love him in the room, right? So to me, Pizzetta, like you definitely stood out to me this week. And then the obvious one, Matheson. We had a really interesting debate. I maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that in this show, Coach. But we had a good debate about Matheson and what Montreal should do there. So let's try to carve out 5 minutes to talk about that, and on the show maybe later because that I think that's an interesting topic because that name is starting to circulate a bit more, and I think we both disagreed a little bit on what to do there. So I don't know. I'd say Matheson and then Suzuki.
I will go because you go with them. I'll go with Justin Barron. Um, Barron surprised us every week right now. Like I feel like he have another level he can get, and he's getting there. He's getting there. And you said at the beginning, like for me, is the way his confidence on the ice is so amazing for me now. And another great. Another way where the Montreal focusing on the development did a very good job with Justin Barron to accept to go in the American Hockey League and don't turn around to be negative but more positive, and you can see it on the ice. Maybe that's why with the kind of player that when they got that trait, they was focusing on to see Barron become that kind of defenseman. Right now, for me, he's a top four defenseman. If he continues performing like that, easy a second pairing defenseman. I think he could become better to compared to Jeff Petrie one day.
Well, if he could be a little bit more stable than Jeff Petrie, that would be ideal for sure. But yeah, he definitely has the mobility of a Jeff Petrie for sure. He just needs to fill out a bit more. Like once he gets a bit stronger, Petrie does have a little bit more meanness to his game, I find. But if he can find a little bit of meanness to his game and then he gets stronger, then yeah, I agree. Then he has
It will
definitely a
come
top
because
four
he's
player.
only 21 years old, right? So, like
Yeah.
example, we always compare the defenseman like is Bayhawks, is X, is Ox box out, right? So box out in front of that, obviously, is physicality, right? And that's why you need to get a bit more stronger, everything like that. But for me, it's the confidence. That's just he feel like once this guy is on his full confidence, how much he increasing his level of the talent on the ice.
Next
So
time, next time you hear Baron talk in an interview, I don't know what it is, but he sounds. I'm not saying he's like as like I'm not comparing him as a player, but he sounds like Carey Price.
Oh, yeah.
Like so next time you listen to his interview, just try to compare to what he sounds like to Carey Price. It's very weird. I noticed that
Wow.
this week.
So we complete the preview of the game, the review of the game and the sellout of the players. Now we're going to move on to the news update and
Ooh,
TNA and injury.
wow.
So we have a lot to talk about. First of all, I'm going to just give us, everybody know already anyway, Chris Tierney played with the Montreal Canadiens, got claimed from the waiver from the Florida Panthers, a 55 overall pick by the San Jose Sharks 2012. Scored first goal of the night, first game with the Montreal Canadiens Friday night during again the Philadelphia Flyers. 5 strength scorers during that game, by the way. Yeah, you can see his talent. Like Martin Sweet talked about his puck management. It was really more impressed compared to his goal. And you can see him. Like the kid, this player can play hockey. He creates space, good on passing, good vision. And Montreal need a guy like this because why do you do that? But first of all, because they don't want to call anybody from Laval anymore. They already have Belzile, RHP, Ilonen, Schoenemann, Barron, and that's 5 of them, maybe 6 of them. And then they want to Laval participate to the playoffs. So it's only the purpose of that is to bring Tierney and the lineup because they knew Joel Armia is be out. We're going to talk about injuries in the next couple of minutes, but the purpose behind that it was this for Chris Tierney. But I was impressed.
You know what's shocking? What's shocking to me is he's only 28 years old, Chris Tierney. Seems like he's been around forever, but he's only 28. You know,
Yeah.
like the guy's had a 49-point season before, right? So it's a
Yeah, that's right.
nice
He's
pickup.
only
You know?
28 and many years with San Jose, like you mentioned. Trade again, Eric Carlson for then he played for the World a couple of years. Signed a UFA with Florida. Then now with Montreal. So will be interesting. He remind me a lot Christian Dvorak.
Yeah, like I think he has that potential to be kind of a well-rounded, two-way center. That's what he considers himself to be. He's one of those guys that's not particularly elite at anything. He's just an overall good hockey player.
Yeah.
So really, really good, serviceable guy. Like compared to some other options, like Jankowski was out there on waivers. I've never been a huge fan. He's kind of doesn't really move around the ice that well. He's a big frame, but Tierney can win his faceoffs. He gets around the ice pretty good. Good puck management, like you said, kills penalties. Like exactly what we needed. He's like a really good replacement for Jake Evans. And by the way, what's going on with Jake Evans? Like, did he get abducted by aliens? Like,
which one?
Jake Evans. Jake Evans.
Jake Evans still with his knee.
Yeah, but no update like on his timeline.
No update about some players they mentioned. I'm going to talk about this next couple of minutes. But when I said to Dvorak, I was talking, of course, his skating is almost the same, but his number, the point per year, like Dvorak is never going to reach 50, 60, but you can count him on any special team. And it's a polyvalent player. So I think that's the way I would compare him, Chris Tierney. So I just, he's not going to be the next Jack Hughes, but I just want to give you a little bit what he looked like. People don't know much about him, so I would just give you an update about that. So I want to mention that I'm going to bring you here, Marko, and we have a couple of players right now. We have some update yesterday from Montreal Canadiens, a second one, and we're going to talk a little bit more what's going on. First of all, Joel Armia, upper respiratory infection he got now. So from illness, again, Tuesday he left the game. Now he's going there. So not going to be on the travel on the West Coast. For he's going to miss the trip. Could be doc. Now we a little bit know more. It's a lower body injury. We already knew that, but now he's out indefinitely with that kind of infection or something like that. We don't know too much, but the kid now is going to be out until we don't know. No deadline.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
So we don't know about him, but he's not going to be on the trip. Then Jekai, so we know more. Is going to be surgery for him, the right shoulder. Is going to be happening next week. The same doctor did for Cole Caulfield in Denver, Colorado. So Jekai out for the rest of the season. We wish the best. We don't know yet the deadline, how long he would be back. But the good news, Joel Edmondson traveled with the team. He's going to be now with the Montreal on the trip. He's going to definitely to be on the no contact jersey and then fit up if he's going to play Tuesday or Thursday or Friday. We don't know yet, but that's what we're going to hope he can play at least 1 or 2 games. Is it too late for the trade deadline? We're going to talk a little bit
Yeah,
more about that. But
nobody's
that's the
touching
good
that guy.
news about him. Kenan Coley, Mr. Marco, is now
Oh yeah,
is going to be back with Montreal. We expect him to play Tuesday because after the game they returned Corey Schoeneman
Schoeneman.
and the Laval Rocket last night. So
Yeah,
that opened up a spot.
yeah,
So they know Cody is going to be a part of this trip. Now it's what Monahan, what Jake Evan, what other, because we don't have no update.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
simple.
I
We don't
saw.
have anything like that. Monahan is no fault to found. He was not around the team and he's not going to be in California. So very sad news
The
for
only
Sean
update.
Monahan about that
Yeah,
one, Mr. Marco.
yeah, and then it wasn't an update from the Canadians, but so last night was Pat Hickey, the famous Montreal Gazette reporter. It was his last game last
Yeah.
night. And so that was great, really classy by the organization. What they Saint Louis, pointed him out at the beginning of the game and everything, which is really cool. But secretly, you also got a Brendan Gallagher update on Twitter yesterday because he went to say goodbye to Pat Hickey, and you could see Brendan Gallagher had a full leg brace on. So no update on Gallagher, but if you follow the socials, then you can see that he's nowhere close to being there either, right? So yeah, so you continue to read the tea leaves and try to kind of like understand what's going on with this team. We talked about it last week about whether they should be more transparent. Let's not get into that again. But bottom line, to me, the most exciting thing about this whole thing is Gooley. My God, man, I can't wait to see him back on the ice. He's such like he was so impressive at the beginning of the season. So I hope they're not rushing him back. There's absolutely no reason to rush him back. So I hope he needs to be 100% if he's going to play. So I hope that's the case. But if he's 100% ready to go, then fantastic. Get some more reps in at the end of the season here. And I think he was having such a great season. So where do you play Edmondson though? Like, so if Gooley's coming back, where do you play Edmondson if he's going to play? Like,
The only problem now for Edmondson is going to be interesting because it looked like this is going to be never a chance for him. He's going to play with kind of pain for the rest of his career. Is that chronic? Chronic, they said?
chronic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Chronic.
it's a back is going to get there, and sometimes you never know, they pop up every time that. I don't know if a team can take a chance. I don't see him to get traded or trade deadline, but I wouldn't be surprised Montreal try to trade him a little bit lower cost during the off season.
Yeah, because yesterday on 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman, I think the market for defensemen is very bad for sellers right now. So you even have teams like Toronto who maybe thought that they wouldn't be able to afford to go out and get a defenseman at the deadline, and now they're like, you know what? I think we will be able to because the prices are going to be really good because there's too much. There's too many decent defensemen on the market, right? So it's just not the right time. Last year was the opposite. We got a first rounder for Sherratt because there wasn't that many good defensemen that were there, right? But so unless it's a really special defenseman that's going to really fill the need, like I just don't see there's a market to get a lot for a defenseman right now. Unfortunately for us, because Edmondson was kind of one of those blue chip, kind of pieces that we were hoping that we'd be able to flip. So it is what it is. I think you're right. Like he's got one more year. So let's see if he can stay healthy. And worst case scenario, you can flip him next year. But man, like we talked, maybe this is the right opportunity to talk about this. Coach is what like just too many left-handed defensemen. Like so let's say Edmondson stays. We can't move Edmondson this year. Okay. Now you've got Gooley coming back. Okay, so you've got Gooley. Jackeye is going to be back, obviously, only next year. So next year, like, what are you doing? Like, Barron obviously solidified his spot on the right. You've got Sabal. I don't. In all good consciousness, like you're not going to sit Kovacevic. There's no reason to sit Kovacevic. He's like a perfect, like bottom pair right-handed defenseman. So what do? You've got You've got Harris, Matheson, Jackeye, Edmondson, and Gooley. That's 5. Like you have 2 extra left-hand D, and you don't want one of those guys to sit as a 7th defenseman. You can't. Like you can't put Harris as your 7th defenseman. Like you just signed him to a 2-year deal. You're not going to have Jackeye as a 7th defenseman. Like he brings too much to the team, and you're wanting to get him some reps. So we had this debate earlier this week. Like I guess George Larac brought up the idea of, and even Ron McLean on Hockey Night in Canada actually mentioned that his name was circulating, Mike Matheson. So I know in the chat we were debating between whether that's a good idea or not. If they're not going to trade Matheson, we all know that they're going to move Edmondson. So that's just a given, right? He's not going to have a long-term role with the team. If you're not going to move Matheson and keep him, and it's hard to argue against it because he's so dynamic. He's, like you said, he's from here, like he's playing really well. What's the alternative? Like, to me, if you're not going to move Matheson, you got to move Harris. Harris to me is the odd man out moving forward. And because I just don't see Montreal moving Jackeye. He's too popular. He's too much of a unicorn. He brings too much. Gooley is like untouchable, right? And like, who else are you going to move?
I don't think they would move anybody because you're never enough defensemen. So what is going to happen is going to move Cooley on the right side, or they're going to move Jordan Harris on the right side, and they can run those kind of play like they did 7 defensemen like this way. When I said that, Emerson is not part of the equation. They're going to return Laval, Whiteman, or they're going to put on the waiver. So they're not going to. So you get Barron, Savard, Cooley, and Kovacevic. And down the side you have Madison, Harris, Jackeye, and that's it.
So Kovacevic is your 7th defenseman?
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I evaluate Kovacevic higher than you do. Like I don't see him meriting being the 7th defenseman. I just don't.
And they're going to play like I said, they're going to play musical chair. They're going to turn around this, and I think it's too early to trade one of the like Jordan Harris or someone like that, because now do you want to Jordan Harris or you want Schoenemann, right? Do you want Harris or you want Whiteman? So it's too early to trade them, and you keep those 7 like this. That's a perfect match, and then you can turn around those 5 players what they did this summer during the season. If someone does struggle or someone they want to turn around, that's what they're going to do. They get some reps, and they still remember they are not experienced. We talk about 4 or 5 of them are never play on one of the game in NHL yet.
I get it. So listen, like I was, it comes down to if Matheson can get you a 1st-round pick plus something else, like if it's a deal that you can't pass up, then I think I would do it because if you're not willing to move Harris, I just don't see that. Like we have too much depth on left-hand defensemen, right? So if you're concerned about depth, like that's fine. You can go out and get like a $1.5 million defenseman as a 7th or 8th defenseman, but and don't forget, like you still have Trudeau, you still have Schoenemann as well too, right? So to me, like Schoenemann's played really well since he's come up. Like we didn't talk about, that's another guy that you could say stood out because he didn't stand out. Schoenemann comes in, he can come in easily for 4 or 5 games at any point in the season and not hurt you, right? So
but it's not about Schoenemann. Who would take the spot of Mike Madison? Who is going to play like him? We don't have anybody close.
Well, again, so this is what we were debating, right? So you were saying he's the only puck-moving defenseman that we have. I don't think that's true. Like Gooley, now
they are not much more. There is not the guy skate that like no one close at Mike Madison skating wise.
So no, I agree. He is by far the best skating defenseman.
Open space. He opened the open space. That's the reason why he's so good. Like he opened the space for other teammates around him. No one in Montreal has this part. They can carry the puck. Coley is not much like Romanov. Like they are. It's not like a. It's not like a guy Coley can carry the puck, but from north to south.
Absolutely, he can for sure. Like not as consistently as Mike Matheson can right now,
He don't
but
have those
you're
kind of
comparing.
skating. His skating quality is not excellent. He's not a speed
Oh
guy.
yeah, of course he is. Like there's no way I'm comparing Romanov and Goulet in terms of their breakout ability. Wow, Goulet again, he's his first. He's a rookie, right? So he's just getting his feet wet, but he definitely has the ability to rush the puck. Justin Barron has the ability to rush the
Yeah,
puck
they
as
can run
well.
the
Like
puck. I understand that, but not the way like Madison does.
no,
That
not
that's the difference between
because
that.
they're
You
rookies.
have
Yeah.
the two different level of the. My question is, if you take off Madison, who's going to carry on the puck like Madison? We don't have anybody. So
No, well, we didn't
we
have
don't
anybody like that
progress. We
before.
regress right now. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's like take off Nick Zuski and put Jake Evans over there. We
Well,
not
no,
progress. We regress. And that's the reason why you
I
keep Mike Madison there. It's because we don't have now. If you have another defenseman like Mike Madison, it could be another name, and that's okay. But we don't have, and that's what it would be the problem with Montreal until
but
we
so
get
what I'm
those
saying.
players like Lane Hudson, Logan Mailloux, everybody else, and the lineup.
But so what I'm saying is that you make that sacrifice only if you're getting a really good deal. Like if it's a deal that you can't pass up, then I think it's worth it to do that. But if you're not going to do that, I'm not aggressively saying that Matheson they need to trade Matheson. I
Now,
like Matheson,
the
right?
point you try to bring is like because someone suggests he should they could get a first round pick and something else in return for Madison. But
Yeah.
if you trade a team are looking for Mike Madison to give a first round pick,
Yeah.
this GM not going to keep his job long time in NHL.
Yeah. I would be surprised too, right? But so if we both agree that that's not likely to happen, that Mike Matheson is going to stay, I obviously we don't agree on this either, but so if Matheson is going to stay, I think we like any other like whether it's hockey or whether it's finances or whatever, you need to diversify your resources. Like if you have too much of something, in our case, it's too many left-handed defensemen, and you don't have enough of something else, whether it's goaltending prospects or right-handed defenseman prospects, then what are we doing? Like there's just too many left-handed defensemen. Yes, you can move them around and whatever, but I guess really what it comes down to is that you evaluate Kovacevic as as being okay in a rotation. To me, he's absolutely proven that he can be the bottom at least a bottom pair defenseman in the NHL, and he's just going to get better. To me, he's a right-handed Brett Kulak kind of guy. You know,
Yeah, but
so
in 2 3 years, Savard not going to be there. Now you're
yeah,
going
and
to
that's
have
what
Barron,
Mayu will be there
Mayu.
by then.
You're going to have Barron,
Yeah,
Mayu, and Kovacevic there.
yeah, maybe, or maybe by then, like once Savard is gone, you have
So
Mayu
my
and
point behind
you've
that, I
got
would say
Barron.
to you, you're right when you said we have too many defensemen, but I would say it's not right now the time to trade them. We have to wait a little bit longer to be a little bit more 1 year patient, one more year, and to figure out after that where Mayu is going to be, where Alson is going to be, where Trudeau is going to be, and then where Trudeau is going to, Armstrong is going to be, and then maybe Jaden Stubble. And then after
Yeah,
that, you make a move like you just said. We have too many LD. So at some point, maybe be a package deal, Iris, whatever. You can pick whatever you want, and then you add those assets. I agree with you about that. It's just for me, the fun between you and me. I would say a little bit too early to trade one of them right now. Right? I'm talking
I don't know,
about
Coach
the Madison and Munson. I'm talking about the rest, like
Harris. Yeah, yeah.
Iris or
But
Kovacevic, whatever you
if
want
you
to
had
name
to
it.
choose, if you had to choose out of all the young left-handed defenseman prospects that we have, would you agree that Harris would be the one that you at this stage of your evaluation that he would be the one that so okay, so we agree. Harris appears to be the one that would be
Iris and Trudeau.
expendable. Yeah, yeah,
Because the Trudeau is similar to like not the physicality, but the player like Jekai. Like they are similar on the on everything else. Not like the physicality, the fighting, everything like that. But Trudeau is tough. Trudeau is really good on the puck movement, shoot the net. He scored again yesterday. But again, if you talk about this, Harris would be one of them, but Trudeau would be one of them. The wild card of those three is Angstrom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, and again, like we're gonna continue to draft more, right? Like in the next,
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely
like
about
we're
that.
not gonna have more draft.
Let's move on for the next subject. It's another debate, so why not to concern with debate? We still have
Yeah.
20 minutes to go, so maybe we're going to skip other subjects today. But let's go. A couple of days ago, I don't know, like 2 days ago, whatever it is, I make a video about it's all about the brand. It's not about the winning. And at the beginning of the year in October, Marco, it was about the focusing on the development, individually players, and then on the team develop. Now, Martin
Yeah.
Saint-Louis, during the time, he built really his brand, his culture. He want to find his identification of Montreal Canadiens, what he going to become. And he really talked about Boston Bruins, talked a little bit earlier. And then he said, anybody come in or everybody get out, the train go forward and we play the same way, whatever is number 64, 53, it's no matter. The name
Yeah.
does not change
Yeah.
how we play, right? So you understand that. But now, another debate over that is the cost of the brand. Is it bigger at the ranking of the Montreal at the end of the initial draft 2023, or is it be better for the brand go lower and wait a little bit next year or slow the train, and it's no matter you
Slow
lose
the train.
slow
Yeah.
and to get a lower ranking draft pick. Some of them, because I do the testing with people, said no, brand, and others said no. We prefer to have the ranking be better a top five pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've talked about this before. To me, Saint Louis very little very little impact on the only thing he can control is his team and how they play, right? That's not going to change. You can't go to Martin Saint Louis and say the train needs to slow down. He's going to give you that Maurice Richard burn a look through your skull with his eyes look, it's just not going to happen. The real guys that can actually make an impact on or could have made an impact were Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon in terms of how the team is constructed, right? So to me, one doesn't necessarily fit with the other. Like it's more of a byproduct, right? So Martin Saint Louis has a job, the players have a job, and they're going to do the job. Hugo is going to really be the ones that determine the personnel that's there, and whether if the team is going to kind of overperform based on what their objective was. So to me, yeah, like they're doing the right thing. I've loved the evolution of the team so far. We've talked about it all year. Beginning of the year, it was exciting, but it was all empty calories. But now we're seeing a real team and a real culture and a real brand building, and I find that exciting. And we've had this debate before, right? Yes, the majority of teams that win the cup have done so by tanking and drafting. You're right. That's the majority of it has done that way. But listen, like it's a copycat league, but it doesn't mean you can't do it other ways. There are teams that have won without a number one overall pick. And potentially this year we'll see another one. Like if the Carolina Hurricanes win the cup this year, they haven't had a bunch of number one picks. Boston Bruins haven't had a bunch of number one picks. They have like a culture. And those two teams, talk about culture, those are the teams that you want to model. Like you have Rod Brindamore, and then you've got the Boston Bruins, right? Like they have molded their culture. It's like an iron, like when you put like a molten lava on a thing and you mold something and it's rock hard. That's what their culture is. It's like set in stone. Their culture. It doesn't matter who comes in and who comes out. Like you said, it's just they're all going to kind of conform to the culture that's there. So I know most of the teams. You go through the list of cup winners, and you go through the list of dynasties, like whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, or those kinds of teams, Pittsburgh. The dynasties, yeah, you go ahead and you draft one or two first round picks, but it doesn't always work either. Ask the Edmonton Oilers, ask the Buffalo Sabres. Doesn't always work. So I don't think there's only one way to be a championship team. So I have a lot of faith in the management team, and I definitely have a lot of faith in Martin Saint Louis. So would I've loved to, been able to draft Bedard or any of the top 4 or 5 prospects this year? Absolutely. You know, but listen, it is what it is. Like you can't control it. Martin Saint Louis is doing his thing, and who knows? We might get lucky. It's a lottery, so you never know. But I think
Uh,
they're doing the right thing.
The only thing I said to you where I said every winner of Stanley Cup have a franchise players. Whatever McDavid
Yeah,
did not do it yet, or Matthew did not do it, but McKinnon
yeah,
did it, Stamkos did it,
yeah,
Edmonds did it.
yeah,
Like you know what I mean? Like Avery,
yeah.
Patrick Kane, everything like that. So for me, I understand the brand and I agree with the brand should more consist, but more far you are for the top 4, more not for me it would be a little bit longer and possible never make it. You're going to be a good top 10 team, but not good enough to be a top 3 in the NHL because you don't have those kind of players. You need to go
But
all the way to the
so
end until you don't have a
so
franchise players.
but another alternative, right? So if you have a bunch of not generational or franchise players, but if you like Montreal's going to potentially have 2 picks here in the top 15, right? At the very least. So at the very least, if you have a bunch of elite talent, then sometimes there's an opportunity. Like if there's a missing piece, like look at Vegas, right? Like Vegas, they had a lot of really good talent, but they felt they needed an elite defenseman and they needed an elite center, which is Jack Eichel.
But
Okay,
look, say
so
back,
they moved.
look, Carolina, they never win anything
Yeah,
yet, but they don't have no
not
franchise
yet.
players. Only the only one they
No,
had,
not yet.
Shevnikov. I think it was the third overall pick or second overall pick. But Howie was not
Yeah,
number one. They
no,
don't have
he was a
anybody
second
there,
round draft pick.
number one, number two over Shevnikov.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Aho was a second round pick, right? But so again, it will be very like there's 2 different models here that you can see, right? So you have Carolina, who have decided, you know what? Okay, we have a deep lineup of very good players, and that's what we're going with. We're going with wave after wave, 4 lines that will play the same way and all that, right? Vegas had that, and they're like, okay, it didn't work. We're giving up on that model. We're going to make any trade that we have to, and we're going to lie and steal and do whatever we have to get Jack Eichel because that the Carolina Hurricanes model doesn't work. We need an elite player, so we went and got Jack Eichel. Let's see which one works. Do you think
Well,
Carolina
I don't say it
Hurricanes
does
are
not
better
work.
positioned? Yeah,
I'm not said it's over with them. I just said because you have a possibility to get one of the top 3, 4 this year, that would be a good
yeah,
way if you can get there, build the brand a little bit later.
for
That's
sure.
my
No,
point
I
behind
get it.
that.
I get it.
But I
Yeah,
understand the
yeah,
point of view about this. I have no problem with that, and I'm happy what the Montreal and
yeah,
Martin Soulet accomplished. I
yeah,
just said,
yeah.
just if every year you have to be picked number one, it was not in 2022.
I
It
know.
was in
No,
2023.
no, no, no. And that's just our luck, right? Like if you look at the last time that we picked in the top 5, again, what we missed. Let's not go over the Kakanyemi Kachuk debate because it's very painful. A very very painful conversation to have Kakanyemi versus Kachuk. But the Galchenyuk draft, you know, you could argue that okay,
I
Forsberg
know, I'm
maybe
not
was
arguing. I was just talking about the first player like last year, Sakoski, right? But
yeah.
Sakoski and this draft is maybe not top 7
No, no,
this
no.
year.
I agree.
I'm just talking
What I'm
about
saying,
the pick of the year, like 2029
yeah,
example, 2029,
yeah,
right? It's a good,
yeah,
it was a good year. But 2029,
yeah,
maybe some people it was better to 2020 compare. So I just want
yeah,
to say to you,
yeah,
it would be better for Montreal was number one this year compared from last year.
for sure.
Not again
But
against
yeah,
Sakoski. That was my point
no,
behind
no.
that.
No, no,
So
but and I agree with you. What I'm saying is that we've been very unlucky with the years that we felt that we had good draft picks, right? Like we had third overall, and that was a really terrible draft. Galchenyuk was not a terrible pick. Maybe the next best player that should have been taken would have been Forsberg, right? But then we missed our chance with. But yeah, you're right. Like we just not have had good timing in the years that we've been bad.
yeah,
It's,
you're
but you
absolutely
can't
about
control
that.
that stuff, right? You just can't control it.
Absolutely. We're about 10 minutes to go, so going to give us a little bit more what's going on. You talked a little bit behind this because you didn't know the subject, but I want to talk about the Pussy Weekly. It's a little bit a statement, but I think to Pussy Weekly of the month, or the sense the Montreal play better as a group. You have two areas I think we need to talk is a power play. The power play is so much better. I think they have 7 in the last 25 attempts. They just
Yeah,
scored they scored tonight, yesterday against the Ottawa Senator. But I think they are, without Caulfield, they are about 24, 26% without
crazy.
Caulfield versus 15 when Caulfield was there.
Yeah,
And then the defensemen you talk about earlier, they have already 11 goals, sent the All-Star game, and they are dominate in the NHL, where before that, it was number 31 in the standing ranking for the most goal by any defenseman. And this
yeah.
came with something. I think the impact you said the Mike Madison is really the catalyzer of that, both of them. I don't know if you want to add more about that.
Yeah, so a couple things there. So, first of all, next week we should have a conversation about how the performance of the power play with not having Caulfield, what does that say? We should have a bit more of a deep dive on that because I think that's an interesting conversation. But you're right, power play totally different. Like even if they're not scoring, then at least they have possession. They're making something happen. It's a positive momentum when they have the power play. So makes such a big difference in the game,
Okay.
honestly.
Can I
Like
stop you one thing here?
yeah,
All right. And pay attention, like not you, but everybody. When you go in entrance with the unit number one, RHP is on the board on the left side. Usually it's Cole Caulfield, right? But Cole Caulfield is a right shooter and RV is a left shooter. And you said, well, it's not a big deal. But RV get the puck on his forehands. It's not on the backhands like Caulfield. So it's a little bit different when you go and then trans over there. It's not again Caulfield. It's just if you put the right personal player at the right spot, I think that will helping more if when you kick out the puck at the blue line. I think that's just the details. But most of the time, they
yeah, yeah,
control the puck when they go in because they are on the forehands.
yeah. But hard not to have Caulfield on the left circle with that shot, right? Like that's. But I
No,
get it.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about
like
the
there's
entrance. I'm not talking about
yeah, yeah. The
Caulfield
setup,
out,
yeah.
right? It's not the, again, Caulfield. It's just the selection, how to put the right people at the right spot. That's what's my point.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting topic. In terms of the defenseman, I think it's a result of definitely, you always talk about kind of like the gap between defensemen and forwards. That's a really important how teams are in sync. Like so to me, it's really like I was mentioning earlier. Like sometimes you're seeing Harris like forechecking behind the net and stuff like that. You even have Kovacevic that's pretty aggressive and but it works. If when a team is synced together, then they just read those things off each other. And right now, they're just reading each other super well, right? So you can't discount the value. It's so hard for teams to defend a defenseman coming into the play as another layer of attack. It's so hard to do, right? So, and then it would be a very interesting thing. Maybe I'll check this out, but I'd be curious. What is Montreal's record this year with Matheson and without Matheson? I'd be curious how much. I think that might be an interesting indication of how much of an impact he has. I have a feeling that that number might be very surprising. That really bad streak that they had in December, wasn't he injured for that stretch? Um, it would be interesting. So maybe for something for us to look at and
So
maybe
far, he played
coach him up
25
even.
games, by the way.
Yeah. I think he has like 18 points in 25 games or something. Like it's pretty crazy.
I just deleted it, but he has, I don't know yet. I will give you a little bit more. I think he have 4 goals
Okay.
anyway. So yeah, maybe like
Yeah.
16 points.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Like so lot of things at play here, but to me it's more of it's the story here about the defenseman. Like even Savard is like he's dangling out there, right? Like he has that one move where he cuts into the middle of the ice and something that we've seen him do, but he has so much more confidence to do that right now because he has the confidence that he has the backup of somebody, pinch it or, kind of coming back and covering for him if he's going to take chances like that. So to me, that's just what you call a hive mind, like bees, like how bees all kind of like share like a consciousness, and a hockey team is like really playing well when they have a hive mind, when they're all understanding what each other is going to do before they even do it. So Montreal is just in that kind of pattern right now. It's a lot of fun to see. Let's hope it continues. Not too much, like Hugo would say. We don't want it to continue too much because we don't want to finish 23rd, but
12,
it's
11,
fun to watch.
12, 11, 2.
Okay. I thought it was
And he
maybe
has
be a bit
16
better.
point and 25 game, 4 goal, 2 assists, 12 assists.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that point per game ratio is pretty crazy for sure. But yeah, I figured the record might be a bit better, but that's above 500 with Matheson and
But that's
Montcalm,
a good
right?
record when you think the team is
Yeah.
below 4.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right about this because you think about
Yeah.
12, 11, 2, you have 2 games, they lost in overtime. So if
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. There's
Yeah.
a great comment about you got point
Yeah.
about Madison. We can do the live. That's be better to mention that. So
Yeah.
great point about
Yeah.
this, Mr. Marco. We have to move on because we're almost at the end of the show. We have behind this. I'll just give you a little bit information about February. They are right now 5-3-0. And the biggest trend we talk about just the positive side. It was the one reason I want to give the stat. We have one more game to go. It's going to be again San Jose Tuesday. So they can finish 6-3 or 5-4. So it's another month of the over 500 about this.
Yeah.
We don't have no time, but question the right trait or not, because we have no time. We have the next week, Mr. Marco. We have preview week. They play 4 games because the game is going to be Sunday, I believe, in Vegas. So they play San Jose Sharks, LA, back to back with Anaheim, and then they move to Vegas next week. So really interesting West Coast trip. 2 teams
Yeah.
where you should not win if you think about tanking, but it is what it is, right? San Jose Anaheim, the Kings, are a good team, and then Vegas too. But it is what it is. I don't know what the expectation for Montreal were there.
I was so wrong last week, but this whole concept that I've been talking about here, where you have team like in particular Vegas, right? So Vegas, they need some points. LA is in a pretty comfortable position, I'd say, but so LA and Vegas, I wouldn't be surprised that they get points out of those games because again, they're going to be super relaxed. They have nothing to lose. If they continue to play the structured game that they play, Montreal always plays well against Vegas, I find. So it's not impossible that they come out of points with 3 out of 4 games here. Um, it is what it is. Like we might have like a record of something like 7-3-1 or something, in a 10 game span here. It's not
Yeah.
impossible.
5-3-7-4, 7-4, 7-3. Yeah, 6-4. So it's a good way to see that for sure for Montreal, and Vegas will be
Yeah,
interesting. What they're going to do?
yeah,
They have back-to-back games, so it's good. The second game again, Anaheim is back-to-back, and I'm doing well, by the way. What about Chicago? I think they are 7-4 the last 11 game for Chicago.
yeah.
Unbelievable. The bottom team are doing well. The Columbus beat Edmonton this weekend 6-5. By the way,
Edmonton.
so
Oh my God, what's going on with those
uh,
guys? Jesus.
crazy thing about this. One subject I did not talk about this earlier, and I think it's a bit too late, but it was the trade deadline. So I'll give you about 2 minutes talk about this.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
kind of a big one.
you know what I mean, like what you're looking for Friday, or maybe give you a briefly, maybe active or not, or what do you expect?
Listen, like I'm definitely managing my expectations. I don't expect that there's going to be a lot. Um, there's one possibility that I heard yesterday that was interesting. If they know Monahan isn't going to play and they can put him on IR, that might be an interesting trade option for a team as well too, right? So if you can trade Monahan and you know he's going to be on IR, then that's a very tradable contract because then that team can eliminate 5 or 6 million off their cap, and then that allows them to go and do something else. So even so, all Montreal, fans have been okay. The only way we can get value back from Monahan is if he plays some games and we can trade him because somebody wants him to play hockey. Well, that's not the case. He might have value by not coming back at all. So that's something to consider. Really, the only kind of hockey deals that you could see, like there's some buzz around Dadonov just because of his reputation and what he's done in the past. I don't see somebody taking a flyer on Jonathan Drouin. I really don't. You have an outside chance that something happens with with Josh Anderson or Dvorak. I just don't. Those deals are so hard to do at the deadline. So to me, you see maybe Dadonov. You see that happen. But other than that, maybe being a third party, but it doesn't sound like the Rangers are going to need a third party anymore for Patrick Kane.
Yeah, they need.
By the way, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to need it. Like after Kravtsov, we'll see. So those kinds of deals. By the way, Coach, were you disappointed Montreal didn't get Kravtsov?
That was my next thing before we go, but great you point the point now. That's great you talk about this. For what they gave in return, it's not a lot. So they could give Jordan Harris example and then a several pay to get Kravtsov. I understand. It's the same thing like Tovanev. Why did not pick Eli Tovanev, right? Yeah. Because I think they know they have so many prospects already as a winger. The Sean Farrell, the Joshua Roy, the Rudy Kidney, the Philippe Mazar, the Hanneman, everything like that. He said, we already know who they are. So why to bring someone over already? It costs something when we have already what they have. So I think for me, they already...
I think you got him for way less than Harris. Like, I think you could have gotten him for... like way less than that. Like,
well, Wood is a good prospect. I don't have it in front of me right now, but he's a good prospect.
No, I don't think so. Like, I think he's a fringe guy. I think
I don't have it in front of me right now, but
probably.
But again, I think for Montreal, I think if they don't get him, it's because Jeff Gordon knows something like nobody knows.
Yeah. It's. Listen, like they know the player. Jeff Gordon knows the player pretty well.
Yes,
he probably still has some contacts in the Rangers. So, if so it is what it is. But I was a little surprised. Good for Vancouver. Like it's zero risk, right? Like you're not risking anything. So should be a quiet deadline, Coach. But we'll be here. Like it'll still be fun. It's still going to be exciting. I'm taking the day off work. I'm shutting off my work email. And so it should be fun, man. Like I always take the day off for free agency or for trade deadline.
We're going to definitely invite you to join us live. We're going to be live at some point during the day. So definitely we would love to have you with us. And we'll be interested in the next destination of Patrick Kane, Jacob Chikron, Timo Meier. And by the way, tonight, 9 o'clock, we'll be live. That's what we talk about this tonight. The trade deadline for Montreal, but for the rest of the team, what the prediction of Sven. And I'm proposal trade. You have to tell me yes or no. So that's what the subject tonight. But before we leave, we want to remind everybody, don't forget, guys, click on the like, subscribe to our Canadian show. And the most important things, guys, sharing this on your social media. Join us at 11 o'clock a.m. talking about the HABS BRUNCH Sunday Rendezvous. The last couple of weeks, we have a lot of great subject, Marco. And I think the people come more and more every single morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. But before we leave your last word of the week, Mr. Marco. That is done.
My last word of the week is brunch. I'm hungry, man. I didn't have breakfast, so I'm going to go. I look forward to talking to everybody in the premiere, but I might be eating some pancakes while I'm watching the show here at 11 a.m. So
pancake for Mr. Marco this morning. And then... Can wait. We have 1 week for the trade deadline. After that, Mr. Marco, we're focusing on the NHL draft lottery.
Yes, sir.
After that. So thank you, Marco. Another great week. We wish you an amazing great week. We can't wait to see you next time, my friend.